This conference will now be recorded.
So, I should say, Michele, that we are recording for the rest of you. If anybody is concerned about that, please tell us. We will find a way not to identify you, but we record so that people can listen later. And we lost Roberta. I hope that wasn't the reason why, but if she comes back, and we'll check in with her.
Great.
I'm a CLO and looking forward to speaking with you all. I was in clinical trial in Santa Barbara for 4.5 years. I ended the trial, well, considered on. I ended the treatment portion about a year ago, and I remain not in deep remission. The disease is, but not gone. Achieved MRD negativity. And I try to be here for patients. I'm a patient influencer and advocate, and I welcome you all to be with us. And, I'd love to introduce my co-moderators here. We have Richard Farmer. I don't know where he appears on your screen, and Kenny already spoke, but Richard, why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you. I have was diagnosed almost 6 years ago with multiple myeloma. And I have, of course, resigned a former position, much to my chagrin. But I'm surviving and writing. I was an academic prior to this madness, and so I'm here looking to help. And to see if I can't share something that I have learned over the past 6 years with you. And I live in Maine, and I know Maine's way the hell up in the middle of nowhere, and but it's in the metro suburb of Boston. At least that's what I like to think. So, Kenny?
I'm muted, and then I forgot I was muted. Sorry. Hey, I'm Kenny Capps. I was actually diagnosed also with myeloma back in 2014, beginning of 2015. Did the whole bone marrow transplant that same year. I am also the executive director of an organization called Throwing Bones. Throwing Bones' mission is to encourage individuals living with blood cancer to stay healthy and active through treatment. I've been an athlete of questionable ability for the last 30 years, doing a lot of endurance stuff. And mostly
Kenny, that's not what we hear. We hear you're a marvelous athlete.
I'm just more of I put up with a lot of pain in order to impress myself. So
it's not what we hear.
Yeah. So and I met Rick, actually. I believe we met at a Healthy Places conference, if I'm not mistaken. And that's sort of how we started connecting and saw the connections between what it was that he was doing, and also Rick being a cyclist, and that's actually where I started in endurance sports before I started doing other things, running and swimming. And so he and I are cut from similar cloth. He was just from across the pond, so that was it. So yeah, there's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Michele, you're muted right now, Michele. There you go.
Thank you, Kenny. I know I was for some reason it was not working correctly. Yeah, I guess we're having some problems with the link. I keep hearing from some other people trying to join us, so I'm trying to send it out. I know, Tom, you had some issues, Jeff, and I did too. So I'm trying to send it out without I think it was from on one of the websites that it had a screen, the link wasn't working. So anyway, I would love to hear from some of the people who have joined us tonight. Tom has been loyal and faithful since our very first one. So I'd love Tom Henry to share with us a little bit about himself. He also brings us a wealth of information from his day job, as well as being a patient.
So I'm Tom Henry. I am a CLL patient, like Michele. I was diagnosed in 2015, started treatment in 2016 with ibrutinib alone. And this past March, I added venetoclax to the ibrutinib. So I'm on 2 drugs at the moment. I am a pharmacist. I have worked in 2 major cancer centers and a bunch of other hospitals with cancer services. So I have a fair amount of knowledge. I'm a writer for the CLL Society. I write their column, the Ask the Pharmacist column, in addition, a number of other articles for them.
Thanks, Tom. You're being very humble, but you'll hear his wealth of information when we get into this more. And Jack has been with us before as well. And Jack is a very well-known patient advocate. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm a long-term multiple myeloma survivor as well, and do a lot of advocacy work in the research world, as well as patient advocacy, facilitating a large myeloma support group in the Bay Area here where I live. Also fundraising, also public policy advocacy. So I've been pretty much involved, and look forward to hearing more from all of you.
And I would love, Susan, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm so happy to be a part of this group. This is my first meeting, thanks to Michele, who I connected with. I was diagnosed with CLL 2.5 years ago, in the middle of starting a nonprofit and moving and having construction issues, and like the worst possible time for it to happen. But I've been in a watch and wait for 2.5 years, and my white count continues to go up pretty exponentially, but everything else is pretty much okay. So I'm not in any treatment yet. The longer I hold out, the better, especially during the pandemic. I live north of Boston, and like I said, I'm an executive director, founder of a nonprofit that empowers women, low-income women. And I know it sounds crazy, but I have a style blog on the side. So I mix my social work with clothes. And I'm just happy to get resources from this group. Thanks for having me. You were talking about what you're doing during the pandemic, and my doctor had pretty much said the same thing, you know, stay in, don't do anything. I have a new granddaughter, and so I begged him to see her. And since my kids are also doing the exact same thing that we are, we're all working at home. We are doing grocery delivery, you know, we're not going into any stores. I am taking walks, but that's, you know, in social distancing, that kind of thing, but not going anywhere. He actually told me that I could be with them. So I have to say that the psychological piece of this is really important too. And maybe it does increase my risk, you know, slightly, but it makes me really happy, and that's good for your health too.
Right.
It is. I'm so happy you joined us.
Yeah, really, I was really happy to connect with you on LinkedIn.
So Al, this is your second time with us.
Yes, this is my second time. I was diagnosed with myelofibrosis just like maybe last month. And so from the hematologist, when I first met with him, I thought I was going to have a bone marrow transplant, and met with the doctor over at the Banner Center here at the Cancer Center here in Tucson. And by her looking at my numbers, she says I'm at low risk, so there's no need for a bone marrow transplant, which is good right now. She put me on Hydrea. I had some lab work done this morning, got a call about noon, and she wants to double it, and she's going to monitor me for the next 4 weeks. But in between that, I do have an appointment with Mayo up in Phoenix next week to get a second opinion. And we'll just keep moving forward and keep praying.
Keep us posted on that, how things go with that too.
I'm sorry?
Please keep us posted on what happens.
Oh, yes.
Mayo.
Yes. Yes. And I've met Rick through my brother several years back. We actually talked on the phone for about a year before we actually met. And when we saw each other's face, it's like we've known each other forever.
Yeah. Al's kind of like my little brother, except that he acts like my big brother.
My kids are jealous of Rick.
Now, Roberta, you have been patiently with us trying to figure out how to turn the video on. Could you introduce yourself? And maybe somebody here is more tech savvy than the rest of us and they can help you with your video. And I'm sorry, that whining is coming from my dog who thinks she's a child.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
She does, yeah, exactly. She always makes a cameo appearance. You'll love it, but right now she's making noise, so sorry about that.
Okay. Roberta, you need to turn on your microphone. It's off right now. It has been on in the past, though. No.
Oh,
Maybe.
we go to Terri and Roberta. When you unmute your microphone, you just hit the red microphone icon. But maybe Roberta has stepped away for a second. Terri, please introduce yourself and let us know more about you.
Hi, I'm Terri. I'm from Florida, sunny Florida, right near the beach. I have CLL. I was diagnosed in 2015. I was considered one of the younger folks at 45. I was supposed to start treatment in April with the Ultra V trial, but because of the pandemic, it was put on hold. Miraculously, being off work for 8 weeks, my numbers got a little bit better. So I'm able to postpone and go back into wait and watch, which I think I was relieved when treatment time was finally here. So now that I'm back in wait and watch, I'm still a little bit uneasy, especially with the pandemic. I'm hoping to at least wait it out another year till next spring, and hopefully the pandemic is here.
Terri, what part of Florida?
I'm in Bradenton near Anna Maria Island.
Because
So it's
I used to live in Fort Lauderdale and also in Miami. And Tom, you're in Florida, I
Yeah,
remember.
I'm in Tampa.
oh, not too far.
No, we're close.
And
You go to Moffett?
Arthur just left
Yeah.
Florida.
I made it. I had to download the GoToMeeting.
Oh, you had to download GoToMeeting. So Arthur, since Terri just, this is a great segue to you. Arthur, welcome. Why don't you
Thank you.
explain? People were just asking, they were talking about coronavirus, and I promised them that you would be here to share how you got tested and all, but why don't you introduce yourself to
My name's Arthur Moranian. Was diagnosed with CLL 6.5 years ago. A year and a half ago, I went through 4 rounds of FCR and was supposed to do 6 rounds and became MRD negative after 4 rounds. The treatment plan that they were going to give me was really not recommended because I was over 65. I just turned 69. But I opted not to go with a trial. So the doctors at Beth Israel Deaconess decided, because my health was pretty good, I didn't have any heart issues, and I worked out quite a bit, so they thought I was in pretty good shape. So they decided to go with the FCR, and it worked. So everything right now is status quo. I see oncology on the 16th of this month. Hopefully, if they allow me to go in, I did have a COVID-19 test at the VA because I am a veteran last Friday, and it came back negative. But oncology is going to do what they call, I think it's called a serology test. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it will tell if I have the antibody. And that will be hopefully done on the 16th of June.
Which type of test did you have for coronavirus? The nose swab or the other?
Yeah, they stuck a rod up my nose about 6 inches. It was not comfortable.
Sorry.
It's a great visual.
But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, the VA had a drive-through that they had over in West Roxbury, and I had an MRI on Monday, so they wanted me to have this test prior to going in for my MRI. And it was uncomfortable, but it was worth getting, knowing that I was negative.
Now, Tom, would that be the which one is the one that sometimes there are false negatives? Are they both no swabs, or is one a swab and one?
So either one can have false positives or false negatives. So it really doesn't matter. But the serology test is the blood one that looks for the antibodies after the fact, and the swab one is to detect if you have it actually at that time.
Yeah, I've done the antibody test that myeloma crowd sent out. They sent one out 2 weeks ago. There was just a finger prick thing, which they said it was done with the. I think they said they originally did it for firefighters in the Stanford area. I think is originally what the study was for, and so of course it wasn't FDA approved, but that apparently doesn't really mean anything that it is or isn't FDA approved. They hadn't really had time to do all that. For one thing. So, and also they can have false positives, they can have false negatives. So, not really sure what it means. But at least I got my finger pricked. So,
Yeah, that's great. I haven't had any test on it, and I even asked doing that now for patients when I went for my blood work last month at Dana-Farber, but they're not unless there's a reason. I don't know if any other centers are doing it as a matter of course.
no, my oncologist wouldn't do them. It was just the it was just sent to me from Jenny Alstrom's group over at Myeloma Crowd.
That's great. They're doing it. Has anyone else here been tested?
No.
I actually have been tested for the, I'm not sure what it's called, but the antibody test, and it came back completely negative, much to my happiness on the one hand and surprise on the other. So,
Were you around anyone while you got tested? Was it
I got tested, I think partly for the hell of it. You know, I had my annual physical with a new physician, and she said, well, you know, their group had just gotten authorized to do this particular test. She said, would you be interested? And I said, oh, sure, why not? And so, you know, as I went through to the lab, they drew enough blood to do that one. So, you know, it came back negative, which I was surprised at for whatever reasons. But thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Yes, amen.
So who we have, Roberta, are you able to speak yet? Clicking on the microphone. Okay, well, Roberta, when you're ready, just speak up. We have not heard from Stephen. Hi, Stephen.
Hello. My name's Steve Kadelsky, and 2 months ago, I guess, I was diagnosed with CLL, and right now I'm on a watch and wait. I call it watch, wait, and worry. Um, but, I'm 72, so I'm hoping that from what I've been hearing about all these different drugs and stuff like that there, plus I'm diabetic, and I got a few other health issues going on. So I'm really hoping and praying that I can, I've seen some of the posts and stuff where people have been on this watch and wait for 15 years. Well, I'm praying that I'm on it for 15 years too. So we'll see what happens. So, but I really enjoy reading a lot of the posts. I feel bad for, I mean, I read some of the stuff and it's heartbreaking reading some of the posts what people are actually going through. And right now I'm not really having any major issues with it that I'm aware of. But I have been learning a lot by these different websites. So it took me a little courage to get on, as you can well imagine. But now that I broke the ice, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to share what little information I have and some things from all you folks. But I'm from Florida. That's where I live. I live in Florida. I'm close to Pensacola, Florida. So that's my my hometown. So thank you for allowing me to sit here and listen to all these conversations.
Hey, Steve, do you think you could talk some about you said that you were concerned about what you read or had listened to other people going through some difficulties with their illness. Could you say a little bit about that? What does that mean for you?
Well, quite frankly, it's a scary thought when you're this age, and I'm sure that some people can well imagine that to have to go through the headache aspect of it, the vomiting aspect of it. Some of those things are a little frightening, to be quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really not sure about what's actually going to take place because I'm only 2 months out from a doctor, and all he said was I have CLL, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can in a shorter period of time about different tests, blood tests, how to read the numbers, and how to kind of get an idea about where I might be going with this. But it is heartbreaking to especially at my age and what I've been through in my lifetime as far as health issues and stuff. It's there's a lot of people out there that we don't realize that really suffer greatly from a lot of these diseases. And that's what I got from listening to reading a lot of the posts and stuff like that.
So Steve,
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I would have to say that having a very positive attitude and knowing that when the time comes that you have to go through whatever treatment you're gonna go through, I found that I was very positive going into it. I had no issues with the FCR. The only thing that I had an issue with was the Neupogen shot. That my white cell count went too low. That was the only thing that ever gave me a problem was the Neupogen. But I'd have to say that if you have a good set of doctors and they're positive about your treatment plan, then things will work out.
I think, I agree. You're absolutely right. And that's what everybody's been telling me I need to have an upbeat, positive attitude about this here. But I think, unfortunately, in the interim period, is that unknown. I mean, you can be upbeat when the time comes and say, I'm going to beat this thing, which I feel I'm going to. But I think initially, I mean, like I said, it's only been 2 months. And so the initial shock of it hasn't, I guess that's the thing. The initial shock of it hasn't worn off yet. So maybe I'm reading too much into what I'm reading. I really don't know yet. So I think I got an appointment in August for my 3-month blood test. And I guess the doctors feel confident that I can at least go that 3-month period of time before I need to go back and have those blood counts checked. But I think until that time, I think there's that, as we always say, there's always the fear of the unknown. And the closer you get, I'm sure between my honey of 53 years, 52 years, 52 years, and 52. Yeah, I knew I'd get it right, one or the other. 52 years.
Careful, careful.
Hey, you guys know I'm going to pay for the chapter, right? But,
Hey,
50,
Michelle,
50, huh? What?
I have a
What's that?
question for Michelle.
Yes. Hi.
Are you still on a fruit nib?
I am not. I'm not. I'll get to the, I want to introduce a few more people and I'll get to more of that. But I am not. Let's introduce Lynn, who hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll answer that more. Like, so Lynn, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You've been busy tonight.
Yes, my second Zoom. I Zoom my life away lately, like the rest of us.
So Lynn, would you like to share about your diagnosis and where you are regarding treatment or not, what you've just gone through? Whatever you feel comfortable with or not.
Okay, I was diagnosed in a routine blood test. I was officially diagnosed last April, but it was probably a little bit before that. Some of my numbers were a little high. I had no symptoms at all. And it came at a really bad time because I had just lost my 26-year-old daughter. And I was diagnosed 3 weeks after she passed. So it was, I was numb. I was just numb from her passing. I have 2 other children. So when I got diagnosed, I was kind of in a numb place, really numb. I have been very lucky that my numbers so far are good. The only thing is I've seen a number of doctors. My dad was a doctor, so I was raised with doctors. And I always feel like Andrew Shore always goes that knowledge is the best medicine. So, there's so many different opinions out there on each individual case. And I saw one doctor here in New York who wanted to start me on medication right away. And I was very hesitant about it. All of my biogenetic markers are bad, every single one of them, but I feel fine. I'm 68. I've never been sick. I work out. I'm a pescatarian. I have 2 dogs. I'm active. I work with children. I just couldn't believe this. And he wanted to start me on a medication, a calibrutinib. And I was very hesitant about it. So I I was supposed to go out to see Dr. Weirder. He canceled on me twice, and now I have a lot of credit on Southwest Airlines. But I did have a second. I'll fly. I don't know when I'll fly or where, but my son and I are going to go somewhere. And I just got a second opinion, actually at Dana-Farber, and it was totally different than the doctor that I've seen in New York. So I have decided that I know my body best. I'm a stubborn little thing. And, you know, like I told my oncologist here in New York, you know me for a year. I know me for 67 years. You know, I know how I took care of myself. I know it's been a horrible year for me, but I'm on wait and watch. And I plan to stay on wait and watch until they tell me that I'm not on wait and watch. But I've chosen not to be on the acalabrutinib. My doctor in New York, who's pretty, I mean, he's very credible, said that the wait and watch was done in the 1970s before all of these new medications have come out. And he does not feel that that pertains to care now. Although there's been no data, I know Michele told me there was. I've been talking to Michele. I'm just really hesitant to start. I'm very holistic and I feel fine. And I don't know why I want to mess. You know, my dad always had this saying as an old-fashioned GP in the Bronx. He always said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I'm just going to wait it out, you know, and that's where I am today. And I'm sticking to the story. Thank you.
Lynn, may interrupting for a second. Like, I've heard the opposite, that you want to watch and wait, you really need treatment. I mean, my white count is 11,000. I'm still in watch.
I'm hearing a lot of other voices. Maybe we should mute. Can you repeat that? Because I didn't hear it clearly.
Sure. So I have CLL as well. And my basically said you want to be in watch and wait until you don't need to be in, you know, till you can't be in watch and wait. My white count is 111,000 and I'm still hanging in there.
Susan, you're Dr. Brown too? Jennifer Brown?
Hochberg at Mass General, but I'm
Sorry.
thinking, do you know him?
I just know of him, and also you had mentioned the name, but Lynn, I know you saw Dr. Brown, who believes in that. Watch and wait until. Lynn, your audio is off.
Okay. Yes, my second opinion was with Dr. Brown at Dana-Farber.
And she said it's okay to stay and watch and wait for you, right?
She told me I don't even have CLL. She told me I have MLB. Wait, what's the Major League Baseball? Or MBL or MLB, whatever. Yeah, she, even with all my bad biogenetic markers, she said, wait, and I'm going to wait. Thank you, Susan.
I think, Tom, you have something to weigh in here.
So I was just curious as what the qualifications were for the doctor you saw in New York.
Well, I'm not clear. I understand.
So Jennifer Brown is a noted CLL specialist. You said you saw an oncologist.
No, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that. I saw a very noted CLL specialist in New York. I live in New York.
Okay,
So yeah, he's a very well-known, should I mention name or no? Do I know?
I don't think there's a problem.
It is a very well-known one, Tom. You know, well,
okay.
Say which hospital.
Well, I mean, so I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the comment that you made that a doctor said that watch and wait is so 1970s. You know, because it's a 70% of all CLL patients are put into watch and wait. Okay, so it's not, you know, it's as applicable today as it was in 1970, more so because we have more options available to us that we didn't have. So I'm just curious as to what doctor would make that kind of a statement in 2020.
Okay, let me explain to you why he did that. Let me clarify it. So
Okay.
because of my markers, he feels that I'm a perfect candidate for Richter's transformation. And he feels that Richter's transformation doesn't happen in the middle of the disease. He feels it could be there as a precursor, and that these new BTK inhibitors could start working prior to it becoming Richter's transformation for people with my biogenetic markers. It is not, he's starting a clinical study. I am not eligible, but that is what he feels. He feels with all of the markers that he's seen with me that I can be a really good candidate for Richter's transformation.
Well, he knows better than I do, but it's an absurd statement to make in today's day and age.
You know, when I was talking to him, and my son accompanies me to all my visits, and my son actually worked with Celgene Pharmaceuticals with CLL, he made sense to my son. Honestly, I'm not saying that he's wrong because I don't know. I'm just saying I'm not willing to start a medication at this point when I'm feeling perfectly fine that has side effects. You know, I am not willing. It's my choice. He might be right. I don't know.
Well, that's the preferred option, is it's to wait until you have treatable side effect or treatable effects. So
Right.
yeah, I think you're getting better advice from Jennifer Brown from what little information, not knowing your markers.
He told me that Jennifer Brown and Dr. Weirder and Dr. Mado and Dr. Lamana would not agree with him.
Okay.
He did tell me he's a great guy. I mean, he did tell me that getting other opinions will confuse me. I don't believe other opinions. I've always believed that, like, the more knowledge you have, the better you can make an opinion. You know, like when you get work on your house, you usually get 3 estimates. Well, that's me. You know, it's the same thing. I equate it to the same thing. So
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Okay. Any doctor that tells you or objects to you getting a second or a third opinion,
Right.
you should walk away from that doctor.
Absolutely.
Okay. And secondly, when it comes to watch and wait, when I got diagnosed 6 years ago with my CLL, I asked the doctors, why don't we just start the treatment today? Basically, and they said, this is not a tumor. This isn't something that needs to be removed from you right away. That if you did go on any type of treatment, that it's going to bring on other issues down the road. FCR, for one, because it's 3 different types of drugs, can bring on different types of other cancers down the road in your lifetime. And that's just part of the treatment plan. So the longer you can wait until you come to a point that you think, or the doctors say that you need treatment. My treatment was because my lymph nodes in my abdomen were getting so large that it was affecting my organs. And that was the only reason that they wanted to start my cancer treatment. And that was almost 6 years, or almost 4.5, 5 years. But the longer you can wait, and if you're feeling good, I think that's the way to go.
I agree. And he definitely didn't stop me from being, he was absolutely open to it. And he gave me my blessing, you know, it gave me his blessing. Because I agree, any doctor that stops you, I would walk away from. I absolutely would. Yeah.
If I could just interject real quickly, I just realized we still have someone who joined us a little later who hasn't introduced themselves, and then we can get back into our conversation, and that's Howard. Howard, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
There's Howard.
Oops. Sorry, I have someone behind me. My husband's behind me, doing a new backdrop he got for me.
I like it.
Howard, are you there?
So we're not hearing you, Howard. It may be that it shows your microphone is on, but I'm wondering if it's connected. Just check in your settings in the top left right-hand corner and make sure that your microphone is set to your computer mic or whatever mic you're using. If anybody is having trouble, they can always call in using their regular telephone. I've put the information in the chat window. It's the number to call is 646-749-3129. And then the ID number is there too, 656-182-845. If you scroll up the chat window and you can't be heard on the web, just use the telephone and call in, and we'll hear you on the telephone, just like a regular telephone call.
That does not look like a Howard.
No, I've been playing with the computer, and it was my husband's laptop, and so for some reason his name came up on it.
What is yours?
I'm Roberta. You've been trying to speak to me for a bit. How is everybody?
Hi, Roberta. So we have Roberta finally. Yay.
Yeah.
See her.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Roberta, tell us about yourself.
Sure. Let me start. About a year, February 2019, I was getting ready to go to work, and I woke up and my whole face was distorted, and it turned out I had Bell's palsy. So I went to the hospital and I was treated there. And while I was there, they discovered I also had CLL, leukemia. And so I had a double whammy, as you could say. And so I live in the Boston area, and I'm a patient over at Beth Israel Deaconess, and I'm watching Wade stage 0. And I've been seeing, every 3 to 4 months for about a year. And I have an appointment coming up, and I'm not sure if my curiosity was, if folks going in to have blood work done and seeing their doctors, do they feel comfortable? Anyone who's here from Massachusetts?
Yeah, I am.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I'm from north of Boston, Methuen. I go to a lab nearby, and then I do a telehealth with my doctor at Mass General.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm waiting to hear from my doctor and see what he says.
Who are you seeing at Beth Israel?
John Anderson.
That's my doctor.
Oh, yeah, he's a good guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I had Dr. Joyce for a few years, and then she went out on sick leave, and then they gave me to Dr. Arneson. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. I emailed him a couple of days ago. I guess he's really busy. I haven't heard from him. Would you folks suggest I give him a buzz and call him as opposed to waiting around? I'm new at this. I don't like to be
I would
email him.
Email him through Patient Site.
Yeah, I did. Okay. I'll just wait them out then.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah. So
Good luck.
anyways, yeah, so what I do, I've been listening obviously for the last half hour. I haven't been able to get a word in. My thoughts are that I really don't want to live in total fear with this situation. So slowly I've been venturing out a little bit at a time to try things and see if they're safe. I always wear a mask, but for example, I've allowed my daughter to come to my house. I've gone to a friend's house. People who I know are social distancing, and it seems to be okay. My attitude is I don't want to live in total fear with this situation because this could go on for a very long time.
Are you wearing a mask with your
Always.
daughter?
My daughter has been in the house for 12 weeks. And she's very, very careful, and I don't wear a mask with her, no. I don't hug her, though.
What about with your friend?
Well, I have a partner, and he comes over and he has dinner, and I go to his house and we have dinner, and we're both very, very good about social distancing and being careful, and it seems to be okay.
It's an enormous political issue in the state of Maine. So I'm in Portland, not far from where you are. And
yeah.
This whole issue of do you wear a mask or do you not? The governor has been very specific and has said to all of the merchants that you can imagine that they are not to do business with people who show up at their grocery store or wherever without a mask. If you don't have a mask, they're told to leave.
Well, that's good to hear. I wear a mask.
It's a huge issue. You should wear masks, and I say that to everybody, by the way. So one bit of preaching here. If you're not wearing masks when you're out of the house, shame on you. You need to wear a mask. And I'm serious about that. If you're not wearing a mask, you are putting yourself in danger and you're putting other people in danger. And that's just, you don't believe it, look at the CDC or talk to your physician. And there is no excuse, none whatsoever. I feel very strongly about this, that if you don't wear a mask, you are putting yourself in danger and you're putting other people in danger. And big deal, ladies and gentlemen, big deal. You're not a better person for it. So, if you ain't wearing it, shame on you. And I say that as a moderator, I say that as a psychologist, and I say that as somebody with 6 years of disease, and I feel very strongly about that. So please wear a mask.
Yeah, but can I ask you for some clarification? Are you referring to when you're outside your social circle bubble?
No, I'm referring to when you are outside of your home.
Ah, okay.
With people who you live with 24/7. So your neighbors, your friends, the people, at the grocery store, wherever. But I don't wear it. My wife does not wear it when we are home together. But I'm going to tell you, if you don't, you're putting yourself in danger, and you're putting them in danger. And if you don't believe it, look at the CDC website and your state websites for the information. And you're not being cool, you're being bastards. And I'm sorry to say that, but you really are being out of control by not doing this. So
I'd like to get into an issue as I'm listening to this. It's very interesting conversation, and I am not a blood cancer survivor. I'm a prostate cancer survivor, stage 3. I'm here because I'm helping the moderators. If you're wondering, I also have something to do with Ancan. but I heard something really interesting earlier on, which you frequently use the term watch and wait, because this is a protocol in blood cancers. Now, we used to have a protocol like that in prostate cancer, and sometimes it's used, but we changed it to active surveillance. And the reason we changed it was because we wanted survivors or patients who are following this type of protocol to take a more active approach, because there are certain things that you can do that will help you whilst you are in that mode. For example, related to exercise, related to diet, related to stress control. And I'm wondering, what extent is that important in blood cancers, and you know, why you're still using this watch and wait when probably there are things you can be doing for yourself, even if you're not taking going through a pathogenic protocol, taking medicines or what have you. Can somebody explain that one? And I think it would be helpful, because I know there's at least one person who's recently diagnosed and who's thinking about this watch and wait. And I think it would help everybody to clarify that.
Yeah, good point.
So Rick, the official terminology that physicians use is active surveillance. So
Yes.
watch and wait is more of a layperson's terminology. So, you know, when you read any of the studies that involve a comparison of patients that are on treatment to those that are in active surveillance, they always say active surveillance. They don't say watch and wait. They may, in parentheses, say watch and wait, called active surveillance. But the population, I guess, has gotten so used to that terminology that it's just, you know, what everybody uses. I mean, I've heard people say they don't think it's watch and wait, it's watch and worry, you know, and things like that. So, but officially, you know, in medical terminology, it is active surveillance.
And Tom, if you are in this mode, and by the way, when I first got diagnosed in prostate cancer, watch and wait was still pretty popular. Now you rarely hear it. But if you are in this mode, what are the things that you can do for yourself, whatever your blood cancer, whilst you're in that mode?
Well, I think that you hit 4 of them right off the bat, and that is stress reduction. There is definite scientific literature to support stress exacerbates our CLL. And then somebody mentioned earlier, I forget who it was, about how bad they feel for some people that have CLL. And there are a lot of people with CLL that suffer from severe fatigue. And yet it seems like counterintuitive, yet it's been pretty much shown that if you can get exercise, the fatigue diminishes. So I think that, you know, you mentioned exercise, diet, stress. There was one other, Rick, that you mentioned, and I think they all play a role. So if you can get control on all of those things, I know when I got diagnosed, I made a big change in my diet to more organic foods and more vegetables and those types of additional things, and cut out some of the processed food. So I rarely eat anything processed at all anymore. Switched, you know, shampoos to organic products, and my cleaning products in my house are organic, and just a lot of those things that, you know, get exposed to all these chemicals and stuff in processed products. So there are a lot of things we can do to improve our circumstance. Yeah, to a certain degree, we're closing the door behind the horse that ran away, but you know, because we've already got the cancer. But you know, we have a pretty high risk just from having a blood cancer of getting a cancer. And so I always say, hey, whatever we can do to reduce that chance of getting that secondary cancer. You know, the number one secondary cancer for people with CLL is skin cancer. And so, you know, that's another thing that we can actively do is go see the dermatologist. My doctor recommends that I go to the dermatologist every 6 months. for skin checks, and I'm pretty religious about that.
Jack,
I can say that before my treatment, from the time that I was diagnosed to the time that I got my treatment, I changed nothing. And after my treatment, I went back to the same routine I had before the treatment. I understand that there's a lot of different ways of looking at your lifestyle, but I think that mental attitude and obviously exercise, but if you're going to give up your life and a lot of the things that you enjoy doing, the CLL is not going away.
Right.
And that's not going to change until you get treated.
Arthur,
When I was,
lifestyle, though, right? I mean, you exercise, you were brought up probably with a very healthy Mediterranean diet. So did you have an unhealthy lifestyle that you returned to, or just, I mean, I know you exercise all the time and you golf and you probably eat pretty healthy.
I'll tell you my routine. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm exercising by 6. And when I'm in Florida, I golf about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the heat until 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I go home. I have a small snack. I do a little bit of work and then probably go out to dinner. And then I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, and that's my routine.
Sounds pretty healthy to me. Much healthier than what I've been doing lately with thanks to work, but sounds really good.
Does anyone find any alternative type of treatments? Or, I've been doing a lot of research. Mushrooms are supposed to be not anything to cure it, but maybe there are some things out there that answer, or at least feeling good.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, it's coming. Can you repeat that?
Well, I'm going to move this a little closer. I've been on Zoom all day eating. So I was just wondering about alternative treatments. Has anyone tried anything? I did some homeopathy for a while. It did nothing. And I did ECGC. Is that right? ECGC, the green tea extract. Can you hear me up now?
I had some alternative treatment. It's tied in with my Bell's palsy. I had acupuncture for about 6 months, and I found that it was helpful to me. It improved my energy and my overall feeling. I felt good, and I haven't been going lately because obviously because of COVID, but I found that that was very, very helpful.
Has anyone tried green tea extract? I know Mayo Clinic has done some studies on it.
I spoke to my doctor about that, and I've been reading about that. And the amount of extract that they gave was like unbelievable. Like, it's not within your tea, They experimented with massive amounts of it in some form or another. I don't think it could hurt you. I think green tea is like a great thing. I don't drink it, but I know it's very good for you. But I think what you're talking about, I've read up a lot about. I was pre-med also, so let me just say that I've read up, and the amount of dosage they gave was, in an experimental setting. So that's what I found. But
what
it
is
can't
it that
hurt
supposedly
you.
green tea does? What is it supposedly it does for you?
It's, I really don't know. Yeah, it's just supposed to be for reducing the cancer.
Reducing the cancer.
Yeah.
It's an antioxidant, and so
I do know that it's an antioxidant, right? Yeah.
Right. So
like
that's a big
blueberries.
element. But one thing I just want to say to Susan is that terminology again. Alternative medicine is different from complementary medicine, and what you're talking about is complementary medicine. And complementary medicine is medicine that most Western practitioners would approve of because it just adds to whatever you're doing in an allopathic sense. Alternative medicine is something different. Alternative medicines are coffee enemas in Mexico. I don't want to give Al any idea because, you know, all he's got to do is run out the door, get in the car, and in an hour he could be getting a coffee enema, which I don't want him to do. You know, there's a lot of medicine that is offered outside of the United States, which you cannot get here, and some of that is alternative. We in Ancan are very much in favor of complementary, which is really, yes, I mean, Lynn's exactly right. You need a hell of a lot of green tea, but it doesn't hurt if you drink green tea all the time. And from a mental standpoint, you feel like you're helping yourself anyway, and that's positive. Mushrooms are really interesting. I mean, there's been a lot of work done on mushrooms, especially turkey tail mushrooms. And you'll find you'll find some really good academic studies that support the use of certain mushrooms. Is it going to make a difference? You know, you can follow Arthur's way where he's just back to what he was doing, but he had a pretty healthy lifestyle in the first place. But, you know, but there are a lot of people who come into a cancer diagnosis, they don't have a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
So they've got to turn some stuff around. But I just want you to, especially if you're talking with your doc, talk about complementary and not alternative, because all the medicine you're talking about is complementary. And that's the good stuff.
It leads me to several questions.
Has anybody in the group taking vitamin D?
Yeah. Let Kenny go.
Yeah.
And
I was wondering, so there's a couple of questions this leads me to. So first, is a coffee enema hot or cold? Or is it just lukewarm? I mean, and do they like do the nitro thing or something? And can you just get this anywhere? And then since we're talking about coffee enemas, I mean, so is the green tea supposed to be an enema too? It's just a really high extract of green tea, but is that, or do you drink it?
No, it's actually a capsule. It's the extract, so it's a capsule.
But again, not coming in the back door. Just
no. Get a little kinky.
And the coffee enemas are not on the menu at Starbucks.
At Starbucks.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, it just seems like a rather public place to do.
Or for you Northerners, Dunkin' Donuts. I used to be one of those.
With no sugar, right?
The question I had was, I do take high doses of vitamin D every day.
Okay.
At least 2,000 units to 5,000.
Right.
And I've been doing that religiously for years.
So there's.
Do you test for your, because I did that for a long time when I was first diagnosed, Arthur, but I tested regularly my vitamin D hydroxy 25, and then I adjusted the amount once I got my vitamin D up to over 60 on a day. I reduced the amount. Now I just take 500 a day or 400 a day. But it's wise to test if you're taking a vitamin D supplement.
So, yeah, and there's a lot of debate about what those blood levels should be. But the preponderance of the evidence is that patients that have cancer should have blood levels above 65 to 70. The normal is like 20 or 25, if I recall my lab values correctly. So, and most Americans don't reach the norm. They're subpar to begin with. So I take 5,000 a day. My next vitamin D level is next month, but last time I had mine done, it was like 90. You don't want it to go above 120. So it's in a good range for people that have any kind of cancer. So correlations, particularly with CLL, to better outcomes with higher vitamin D levels.
Do your test you for the vitamin D? Tom, I know we both go to Moffitt, and I have not seen results for any vitamin D on my lab work at all.
So my GP actually does it.
Okay.
Okay.
Has anybody in the group, when they got diagnosed with the CLL, has there been any correlation of where their CLL might have come? Is it been genetic? Mine has been diagnosed because of Agent Orange, because I was exposed in Vietnam, and because I'm treated at Beth Israel Deaconess and at the VA hospital in Jamaica Plain. There was a connection between my time overseas and CLL.
Mhm.
So I mean, I have a pretty good idea why I have CLL. I'm wondering if anybody else in the group has been exposed to any type of chemical or anything in their lifetime when they were kids that might have brought on the diagnosis.
Al, why don't you speak up a little bit? Because this.
I am a painter by trade, and I got the myelofibrosis from the benzene and the paint chemicals. I've done a lot of lacquering, tabletops, a lot of clear finishes, and I have always protected myself. I wore a respirator. On the other hand, I know so many other painters and even painters that I were trained by, and I just happened to be just that one in a million that got it.
Yeah. So to the best of my knowledge, Agent Orange is the only confirmed cause of CLL. That doesn't mean that's where we got it from, because most of us haven't been exposed, but that's the only known cause of CLL. There are currently a bunch of lawsuits out there with the other herbicide that you spray on RoundUp, which is similar to Agent Orange in that they were both herbicides, but no concrete medical evidence other than an Agent Orange. So, it's just a mutation of one of our genes, and our systems are somewhat compromised, and we let that mutated cell continue to multiply. And like Al was saying, his counterparts may have had a better immune system and were able to destroy that mutated cell when it started to reproduce and cut it off at the pass. So
I do. I mean, Al has, of course, myelofibrosis and not CLL, but I think there is an association between benzene and toluene and myelofibrosis.
Yeah, and other cancers as well. So
yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Terri, you had something you wanted to say earlier on.
I was talking about before I knew I was going to be quarantined, I was preparing for treatment, and what I had been hoping for was some time off from work. I work, 50 hours. I'm a retail manager. I'm always busy. Unlike some of the other folks, I did not get diagnosed due to just normal blood work. I was extremely fatigued. I was a runner and a weightlifter, and just came to a halting crash and kept going to the doctor. And after 2 years, finally got diagnosed after being told I was, depressed or working too much, when I just knew deep down there was something not right. So I took the time, I decided to not go to work for 9 weeks while the COVID was going on. And I said, I'm going to take this time to focus on me, just me. So I began a routine of getting up and going back to my old routine, really, working out. I started running again, started weightlifting at home, riding my bike 20 miles a day. And that's basically all I did. And I felt so much better, and my numbers improved. Although my doctors disagree and don't think that that was the reason. I do, and I'm trying to continue on. I'm back at work. And I also started a plant-based diet in the beginning of January. So I really think that just the lifestyle changes that I've made have had a huge impact on just my overall well-being.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, everyone switched their positions on my screen just now for some reason. So I'm hearing from a lot of people that they exercise, and I will share, because I shared earlier with Rick, and I have questions for you on it. I have always exercised, push it to the limits, and injuring myself, but it didn't matter because it felt good, right, when you're doing it. And I even, throughout, in fact, Arthur, what you were saying, in the trial I was on, it was FCR for 6 months along with the ibrutinib. It was called the IFCR trial. And then ibrutinib indefinitely. And I didn't go off until I started getting a lot of adverse side effects. And I actually had to speak to my doctor. I wanted to stay on because I felt it saved my life, and she take it apart. Kind of interesting. But so she gave me a month, and then I was glad I went on. I feel bad. Exercise. So I went in, took on work I shouldn't have taken on. I've been working 21-hour days, which is the old me, which I tried to get away from. And I've been very good about it for healthy lifestyles to try to stay healthy now that I'm in remission, because I often wonder if, because I worked like that for years, crazy, insane hours, because I'm such a type A plus personality, that I helped bring on my CLL earlier, or maybe it never would have been activated, who knows? Or it may have come just, I don't know. But I've always wondered that. So I'm trying to break up with this client, but I haven't had time to exercise. As I told earlier today, it's like sleep a few hours or exercise. And so I haven't exercised in 3 weeks, and I am feeling it. I have not, it's not a good thing. I need all of you to re-inspire me, but it seems like here almost everyone exercises as part of the routine, but also that they did before as well. So out of everyone here, who exercises now? If everyone can show a hand. Oh, Kenny, we know you fake it. So, Richard, do you exercise?
Oh, absolutely. I walk about 3.5 miles a day, 5 days a week.
And Tom, how about you? Oh, Tom,
I'm on a COVID vacation from exercise.
And did that start before coronavirus? Were you an early trendsetter?
Yeah, I was at the gym 3 to 5 days a week. So, yeah.
That's great. How about you?
So I'd like to ask Kenny a question, because Kenny, growing bones is all about quality of life and what you can do for yourself when you get a blood cancer diagnosis. So you must have some thoughts on exercise, diet, stress reduction, and you've been very silent there.
Well, honestly, this has been this is a great group, and everybody's been actually not sitting back and being wallflowers. So I just sort of sitting back and enjoying everybody else talk. And I am really excited to hear that everybody's doing stuff. I mean, I'm super impressed. So there's different ways to look at it. One of the things that we actually talk about, and one of our upcoming education series that we're actually going to have, I think it's going to be the end of July, first week of August, maybe, is we're having a webinar series with Sadhu Mani at Levine Cancer Center, and we're having two, they're cancer focused but not specific fitness coaches with a program the UNC healthcare systems are working on in conjunction with Mayo to talk about sort of a couple of things. One, the prophylactic value of exercise, healthy and active lifestyles prior to entering some major treatment. So if you were going through a bone marrow transplant or something similar to that, or even going into radiation therapy, the value of being as healthy and active as you possibly can. And especially since a lot of these diseases, CLL, myeloma, a lot of these blood cancers, not exclusively, but a lot of them do hit later in life. The average age of myeloma is 64, 65 years old. I think CLL is maybe around that same area as at diagnosis. Is that right, Tom? Around 64, 65 years old. And so a lot of us, many of us, maybe most of us, wind up with other issues prior to that cancer diagnosis that certainly compounds the problems, meaning that we might have high blood pressure, hypertension, obesity, and all sorts of other things. And so it's hard to even qualify for some of those really harsh treatments. Because as somebody who's done the bone marrow transplant, they're not fun, and they're pretty brutal. And Terri, like you, I was diagnosed fairly young. I was 42 when I was diagnosed, and almost 43 when I had a bone marrow transplant. And I was pretty active. I mean, the morning I was diagnosed, I ran 15 miles before I went into the oncologist. So I mean, I do quite a bit of activity in endurance sports, and that's my thing. And I still dropped 14 pounds during the bone marrow transplant within over those first like 3 weeks. So it's harsh. So again, there's value in there in being able to handle treatment. There's value in there in being able to handle just what your body's physically going through anyways without treatment. There's also value in recovery. And there's not being significant studies on it because it's certainly ongoing, but with different treatment, different blood cancers, the value of exercise, of healthy and active lifestyles, not just nutrition. I know a bunch of people jump to, I'm going to become vegan and then everything's going to be hunky-dory and then my cancer's going to go away, or I'm going to take this supplement and it's going to reduce my cancer, which Rick made a great point that they're not reducing your cancer, but it's a side treatment. It's not the main focus of it. But that's not to say it doesn't have value. It does. If nothing else, it's making you feel better about what you're doing. And you're also being proactive, which I think there's value in that too. And I think all of this rolls around to, even if what we have isn't curable, it increases our quality of life. And I know Terri mentioned this too, that it makes her feel like she was being Terri again. It's getting back to that, and me too, And so I thought when I got diagnosed, this is back to about Kenny again. When I was diagnosed, I thought that a lot of those goals that I had, even as I was getting older, those athlete goals were done. So, and I turned 50 next year. And so I found, and I had taken a lot of these things off. I don't really love running road races anymore. I don't really care to run with people that are wearing giant dinosaur heads on or tutus. And I don't like big crowds of people surrounding me. That's why, one of the reasons I love these really long races. I can go 50 to 100 miles, and guess what? I can go for an hour without seeing a single person. You don't see that in New York Marathon or Boston. But I made a decision that before I hit 50, I'd like to hit a BQ time because I was actually working on one that year. I don't really care about Boston that much because, again, I'm not a big road race guy, but it just seems like a feather in my cap. And I realized that when I ran a half last year, that I think I can do this. And again, this is after all the bone issues. I've got 2 compression fractures in my back. I've got holes, lesions all through here. I've got a 3mm one in my hip. I've got in my skull, except for my scapula. They're all dog-eared and chewed. So it got me pretty good. But despite all of that, it's because of the exercise, which I've heard people say, my doctor told me to not overdo it, which in their opinion is, they interpreted that as I'm going to sit on the couch and take it easy. That's not what he meant. Or she, that's not what he meant, I promise. And so I'm discovering that I'm actually getting back into a groove. Been years later, but I'm finally getting to a groove. I'm going for another 100 milers this November. I'm doing a 50 miler in October. I'm doing a marathon in September. I'm gonna try for a BQ probably. If I don't go for it in October, I'm gonna go for it in March of next year. So, which for me, that's at my age, it's 3 hours and about 15 minutes. So about a 7:42, 43 mile split.
Good for you.
for marathon.
Yeah. You know,
You
Fantastic.
know what? But I can. I mean, yeah, I'm bragging a little bit, but because I'm proud of that.
Go for it.
But I'm
Absolutely.
also saying that there's value in this, and it's about, and it's steps, and just like all of us, we need to trust in the process. There's not a magic bullet for any of this. There's not a magic bullet to curing cancer. It'll be lovely, but it doesn't quite work that way. There's no magic bullet for even having a quality life where we feel comfortable and as best as we can, despite whether we have cancer or not. It's a process. Life is a process. So that means that you take it in steps. If you want to train for a marathon and you've never run a marathon before, I suggest you don't train by going out and running a marathon. You run a marathon. That's not how it works, right? So you start small.
Kenny, I threatened to make Al run with me, and he said he'd never speak to me again. So I thought, well, I better find something else for him to do. I've been trying to get him to come out fishing when I take I row. I'm a rower. That's my main. And I've been trying to get Al to come with me to the lake to throw in his pole when I go fishing, but I haven't succeeded yet. But I will tell you that Al has a beautiful cruiser that he restored himself, bike. A beautiful bicycle cruiser that he in a turquoise color. Listen, guys, we're coming towards the end, and I'll turn it back to the moderators. But two things: one, I really encourage you all to check out Kenny's website, throwingbones.org. I put it in the chat window, and if you click on it in the chat window, you'll see throwing-bones.org. And you'll see the sort of things that they are doing to encourage blood cancer patients to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And if you haven't seen our website, which is ancan.org, please check it out, and please sign up for the reminder for the blood cancer meeting. And we send out a reminder before each meeting, so you'll know when it is. It's the second Wednesday. I think next month it's the 8th. I'm not sure. I think it might be the 8th of July. But we'll send you a reminder. But please just sign up with us, and then you'll hear from us. Or you can send an email to info@ancan.org, and then I'll make sure that any emails that get sent to me are passed on to Kenny. And I'll turn it back to my trusty moderators to close out.
Who's going to start running and training so they can run Kenny when he doesn't want anyone with him?
Hey, well, we have virtual races now, so y'all come hang with Throwing Bones. We're doing virtual races.
Al, this is perfect for you, Al.
Yeah,
A
see?
virtual race.
Hey, you don't even have to run. You can bike or swim or even lift weights. Al, this is all you, man.
So I got a question. So when this COVID hit, I got locked down in quarantine. I was home for probably over 2 months. I was in major depression. I mean, and then on top of that, I got diagnosed with the disease I have on top of being quarantined, and it was tough on me. So I used to be active. I would play racquetball. I go hiking in Sabino, did walks, 3-mile walks every other day. And before I got diagnosed with this, I was fatigued, couldn't do anything, wasn't motivated to do anything. Much worse after that when I found out what I got and being in quarantine. And it's just hard to get back out there right now because I don't have the stamina. And I'm only good for 15, 20 minutes, and I got to sit down. But what I'm finding out is that the more I do it, the longer I could go.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it safe? I know I'm not talking to doctors here, but would you encourage me to stretch it out and keep going?
it's consistency. It's absolutely it's consistency, because honestly, it's really the same concept as if you're going out for 15 minutes now. Your 15 minutes. If you did those 15 minutes, let's say 5-6 days a week, allowing yourself recovery, making sure you're eating well, being healthy and safe and all that, your 15 minutes in a week from now or 2 weeks from now, it's going to be different than the 15 minutes today, because you're going to be stronger. You're giving yourself time to recover. It's sort of building on it, and then you build on it. And you go a little bit further up, you get a little bit stronger than that. Then you pull back. I mean, that's the overly simplistic version of it. So, but absolutely. So your 15 minutes now might be the same thing as your 2 hours in 3 months from now. Okay, and you can. And honestly, a lot of this is all just about time. I want to say time on feet, because I'm also a coach, so that's what I tell them is time on feet, time on feet. And so it's time on feet, but time on feet metaphorically sometimes, because time on feet might be for you, it might be working in the garden, it might be moving things around, it might be hauling mulch in your yard, it might be walking the dog, but at a consistent pace, where you're slightly pushing yourself faster than might be an even pace. You know what I mean? Things like that. The same thing with the mulching. Same doing mulch, slightly harder than just doing it easy. And then being consistent, giving yourself time to heal. So, and get used to it.
Al, one piece of advice that I would give you is get yourself a Fitbit, put it in your pocket, and keep score every day. And you know what I found over 35 years of doing this, that you will be surprised how far you go on a weekly, monthly, and write it down and keep a journal. You know, I've done a couple times around the globe. I've circumnavigated the globe by walking over the last 35 years, a time and a half again. So it's like, I don't know, 45,000 miles over those years. And man, I'm going to tell you, that stupid Fitbit, it goes with me everywhere. It's $20. It's worth it because it makes you honest.
Better never, true words never spoken. Stupid Fitbit.
All right, Al, now you know what to ask the kids for Father's Day.
There you go.
No, you know, I have one. It's sitting up on top of the drawer.
No, put it in your pocket. Dude, put it in your pocket.
Yeah, it's in your pocket, right?
Oh, you want to know every day.
Awesome.
Right.
So yeah, I may try running again, Kenny. We'll see. I'll look and see the runs you have.
You do what it feels good to you, Michele. Seriously, do what feels good to you. I mean, maybe that's not it. Maybe get I just got my like 12th bike the other day, so I got another Fuji. Anyways, and so maybe that's it. Maybe it's biking. Maybe it's figuring out going back in the pool. Now that at least around here, the YMCA's are slowly opening up 50% capacity. Maybe maybe you build a pool in your backyard.
So we are working on a program for an exercise program for cancer, for all cancer patients, and I'm hoping we'll launch it within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it will go out to everybody that participates in Ancan that's a cancer patient. So be sure to get those emails in, but we'll tell you about it, and it will be for virtual classes that you can participate in from home, and there'll be there's a small monthly subscription, but the first 90 days are free. So if you don't like it, you don't have to continue with it. National Ovarian Cancer Coalition has just signed on with these guys, and we've got some people checking it out. We've gotten some good reports, a couple of my prostate guys, and Michele's promised me she's going to check it out in the next week or so. So it will have her seal of approval if you see it, if you see the sign on for it.
And perhaps this can be my seal of approval, what Brian just put up, my husband, is part of his, Rick knows about this, my Wonder Woman, how she empowers my advocacy and my survival.
All right.
All right.
An authentic metal replica of a shield, a warrior's shield, like Wonder Woman. You know.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. You do kind of look like Wonder Woman. I'll buy that.
Yeah, I would like to look like Wonder Woman, but thank you, Kenny.
So I have one question before we go. Has anybody taken the Hydrea medication?
Hydrea.
Tom, you're muted right now. Unmute. What do you know? What can you tell Al about Hydrea?
It's been so long since I've dispensed Hydrea, I really have not kept on it. So
I think it's a platelets med, isn't it?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I told him.
So.
We had quite a. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to share or talk about before we sign off this evening?
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Thank you. CLL patients, anyone have a lot of lymph nodes on the neck that really bother them? Like, they're driving me crazy. And they're just like sleeping is tough, and I don't know if anyone's got the same issue or has tried anything.
I did have a lot of that. I did have that before treatment. I mean, for a while. And, you know, my oncologist just balanced, she looked at everything. It wasn't just that would be the one thing that would go to treatment. It would have to, of course, be if any other lymph nodes were swollen that were impinging on organs. And also blood counts, various blood counts, and night sweats and all of that to go into it about time to treatment. So I don't want to scare you that I did have swollen lymph nodes, but that's not what led me, the only thing that led me to treatment. But yeah, for quite a while, I think. I mean, to the point that it would push my earrings out. And has anyone else here had that happen? The swollen lymph nodes in the neck?
My doctor's not worried about it. He said it's totally normal. I'm wondering if heat or anything, you know, was helpful ice or anything. But,
yeah, I tried to convince myself there was a benefit because if I had any neck wrinkles, I filled them out. So, you know, it would make my neck look younger. I tried to look for the positive benefit.
So
Tom, you share on
yeah,
that?
I never had any problem with lymph nodes. You know, the only lymph nodes that I had that were swollen showed up on CAT scan in the abdomen. I never had any B symptoms, you know, of the symptoms, you know, night sweats, fever, fatigue, any of that stuff. The reason I started treatment was my platelets and my hemoglobin dropped. So basically the CLL cells were pushing out the normal cells and you know, crowding those out so that they couldn't reproduce. So that was about 7 months after I was diagnosed. We haven't talked at all about mutations, really, but I'm a 17p deletion, which is, you know, one of the more in the old days, it was one of the more risky forms of CLL. Today, it really doesn't have the bearing that it used to. When I got diagnosed in 2015, and you look at the Ray chart and the various different tables, it said, you know, if you had 17p, you lived 3.5 years post-diagnosis. So I'm knocking on the door of 5 years, and my white blood cell count right now is 3,000. So, you know, so when I started treatment, I was 65,000. A week after I started ibrutinib, it went up to 192,000, which is normal with ibrutinib, that you have basically pushing all of those lymphocytes out of your bone marrow and into your blood where they can be attacked by the drug. Now I'm down to everything is in normal range except my platelets are just slightly below normal. And starting in March, I went on venetoclax in addition to ibrutinib, hoping that maybe I can get to undetectable and MRD within 6 to 18 months. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. We're so lucky to have you. We really are. With your wealth of information for all of us.
Thanks. One thing I did say earlier about the vitamin D that I would like to add something to. So if you take more than 2,000 units a day of vitamin D, you really should take vitamin K as well, which helps your body balance the calcium in your body between your bones and your blood. So if you take a high dose of vitamin D without the K, it can be detrimental and you become high calcium in your blood, which is not a good thing. So.
Thank you for that last
Tonight's tidbit.
About that. I just take supplements. And yes, that's my dog howling at me. He's like, come on.
It's over.
Sorry about that. But thank you, everyone. I hope you join us again next month on July 8th. I think that's the day, right, Kenny? And same bat channel, same bat time here. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. I am so excited. I had all these CLL folks with us tonight, and that Al, you returned, and we need to boost those numbers on some of these other blood cancers here.
It seems like the last 2 months we kind of have dominated with the CLL, so I don't know if we can come up with some multiple myeloma topics next month or a comparison between the two, but it's we're kind of like dominating the conversation the last 2 nights. So
I know.
You got to come up with a topic for us, buddy. Some new treatment, something.
That's uncanny. Any direct shot there? I don't know. I know.
I'll make a list and send it to you. I'll give you some.
It would, I think it would be interesting for us to kind of compare the two. Like I know 17p deletion is common to both. So what are the similarities are there between, so if I'm 17p deletion and somebody else is a multiple myeloma 17p deletion, it kind of in the back of my mind is going, why did mine become CLL and somebody else's became multiple myeloma? Just kind of, I don't know the answer to that, but maybe somebody does in our group.
Kind of interesting, very interesting, Tom.
Yeah.
Don't forget the myelofibrosis guys. What do they need? A paintbrush?
I got to look it up and do a little research for Al. So last month he really was not sure what his diagnosis was. So I'm glad to hear that we have one now. I'm sure that makes you feel a lot better, Al.
Well, yeah. Well, it's good to know that that's what they say I have, but really, who wants to have anything?
Well, yeah, but if you're like me, uncertainty sucks, big time. And
I think it's for everybody, right?
Go in and finding a solution and, taking a positive attitude about the whole thing. Yeah. Uncertainty, I think for me has always been, like when I was working, I did temporary assignments. So I'd be getting to the end of an assignment and I go, okay, I wonder where the next one's going to be, and it's like, or if I'm on an assignment and there are these temporary assignments and some of them go month to month and it's like, okay, when are they going to tell me they don't need me anymore? If I had a date certain, I can go a year or 15 months, but it's like, where am I going to be in September? I just don't know. I think that's the big thing with COVID right now. So much uncertainty. Where are we going to be? What can we do? Can we travel again? Can we get back to somewhat normal?
All right, guys. Listen,
true about everything.
we gotta cut this off because I know Kenny's got a bedtime story to read. Michele is well, she's gonna faint if we don't get food into her pretty quickly.
Okay.
You know,
And it's Rick's in Arizona, and it's like 8 o'clock, so it's like the witching hour for Rick. He's
7 o'clock. 7
oh,
o'clock.
right, 7 o'clock. So it's gonna turn into a pumpkin. And
All right, guys. Well, listen, we hope to see you all. This has been a great conversation. It's recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel. We'll let you know on Twitter where it's posted, and Kenny will let you know, and Michele will let you know. So if you want to listen to any of this again, you should feel free to do so. And thank you everybody for being open and for participating. And we just hope that you've learned something from all of this. You've picked something up and you feel better talking to other people that are in your boat. Good night.
thanks, Rick. Thanks for taking it up. Bye, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you all.
Right.